people that are so skeptical and negatively responding, they're the kind of people that think that the future is just a continuation of the present with bigger and better machines, but that it's not fundamentally different. They don't understand the progress that is being made. 30 days today is 3 days next year, and the speed and the proficiency of the task is gonna increase at the same exponential level.
Yeah.
So we need to see progress in every single field, and that's literally what we're seeing. But because we use these really one-sided, one-dimensional benchmarks, then we say, oh well, AI has not been getting better anymore. No, that's not right. Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of the Univision Network newsletter.
Absolutely.
With Patrick Willer and
Aragorn Motornight. Here we go.
Here we
The
go.
newsletter where we every 2 weeks dive into all the new technology news so you can make sense of what is coming at you at incredible light speed. So we got a lot to talk about, Aragorn. But before we go into everything, what was your week like?
my week was actually I've listened.
I'm not talking about the fantastic dinner that we did, but the other things.
No, yeah, well, I had many dinners this week, two or three with you.
Yeah.
So there was that. All of those were amazing, and we'll talk about more of that later. And I've been listening to. So we did a competition for the making an AI generated song for the innovation meetup, which we'll discuss later as well. But nobody sent anything yet, so I don't know if people are just too afraid to send in their creations. But I did make one myself, and it's so good that I've been listening to it like on repeat. I've probably already heard it like 100 times. I don't look. I yes, maybe you can still hear that it's AI once you really get used to it and you listen to Suno every day. I heard that sometimes the same voice comes back in songs from other people as well.
Yeah.
But it sticks in my head. There's like 2 songs from Suno that are just so stuck in my head that I wake up and I'm already singing them. And so I still think it's awesome.
You make an interesting mark before you play it. Indeed, there is something that is some kind of repetitive. If you do a 1 track a week, you don't hear it. But I was preparing for the DJ set and I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do an entire DJ set for an hour with techno that I want to create with Suno. And I gave some very different prompts, but in the end, the tracks looked and very much the same. They heard very much the same. The sound is very much the same. And so, yeah, you can definitely tell. But bring it on. Bring on your tune.
No, I'm not playing it. I'm just, you asked me what was my week like. Look, what we're going to do is, and people will. So if you're watching this, if you're listening to our newsletter this week, you already heard the song, but because we played it at the intro. Yeah. And we'll play it at the exit.
We got a new one at the intro. There we go. All right.
Maybe not permanently, but for now, leading up to the meetup, this is, of course, our extra way of how do you say that? Marketing it. Yeah. So we can play that song.
So, but other than that?
Other than that, I don't know, man. I've done keynotes. I've done the dinners. So I don't know what to say. It's been an incredible week. So much has happened. Oh, you want to hear the quickies about what happened in the world? I was so like, he's asking me about my week. Yeah, so I think my most interesting one to mention right now is that Michael Burry, the man from the movie The Big Short, who bet against the housing market over a decade and a half ago and made billions doing it. He bet against the AI bubble. So he is betting 80% of his personal wealth, which is more than $1 billion, on this. And a lot of people have interpreted that as, oh, this is a bad sign. The AI bubble is real and it's going to burst and it's going to be massive. And look, I'm not going to say that I think it's something we should ignore. Michael Burry has proven to be intelligent and understands financial markets. But I also read a book, What I Learned Losing $1 Million, about 10 years ago, about this amazing trader who made millions and millions and millions and millions trading the market and doing this kind of prediction, technical analysis. But then one day he started to lose and then he lost everything. And the book is about how he realized that as long as you're right, you always think it's because you were so smart and you got it all right until you get it wrong. And then you realize that it never had anything to do with that in the first place. And so I'm not saying that Michael Burry is wrong. I'm saying that us dropping everything and believing this man because he got it right once might also be a mistake.
Yeah, but 80% of his entire fortune is a big bet.
It's a big bet, but he believes he's 100% right. And I love that he has skin in the game and he's going for it. Of course, you could also say, well, 80%, is $1 billion. That means that he's still got 200 million left over. So it's not like you're going to be poor if he fails. But
it's enough saving money.
The thing that I'm most worried about, and maybe we shouldn't go into this topic too long, but the thing I'm worried about is that this kind of move and sentiment, and then the attention it gets publicly, can also be part of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah. So let's maybe we should then stop talking about this AI bubble too much, so we don't contribute to it. Let me talk about something else that was fun to do last week. I had an excursion from Bureau Zorro. That's a company that looks into trends, and we had an on-site visit on hard Hyperloop, and that was interesting because this Hyperloop, and one of the founders of the company had an interesting story about it, was a competition that was designed by Elon Musk more than 10 years ago. And the whole concept is also coming from the brain of Elon Musk. So I saw the actual, tube where the whole Hyperloop should be built in. And the struggles that they're going through to put this infrastructure in place is just immense. They've been for 10 years trying to get that done in Europe. And they're now looking to do something around 2030 in Italy with a small test track of 3 kilometers. And in the meanwhile, the Chinese already have a test tube, and India also has a test tube. So hopefully they are not going to be surpassed by this great engineering from the Chinese. So that's a pity,
Well, I don't know if it's a pity. I think it's
for the Dutch company that has trying to put this into place, right? And also for Europe having such a connection, we could have had a high-speed 800 kilometers connection if politicians would agree European level to put that in place. That's what I mean with it's a pity.
No, absolutely. But I mean, we still do have this company. They're still working on it. They are making a lot of progress. And that means that if you put that in line with something that we've been discussing a lot over the last weeks, months, European self-sufficiency, where we want to be less dependent on international tech. That's not just about AI and computers, right? It should be on every level. We should strive to be less dependent on China and less dependent on the US for this kind of thing. So that creates an atmosphere and an ecosystem or a situation, hopefully, where you will say, well, we're not going to invest in a Chinese company doing it if we've already got one over here in the future. So that could end up nice. I think what I do want to mention is that how incredible I think it is, because people have criticized Elon Musk for dropping the Hyperloop idea and then not actually, doing anything with it himself. Which, if you think about what this man is already doing, like he has Neuralink, he has SpaceX, he has Starlink, he has Tesla, all the things that this man does, and every single one of those companies is completely disrupting an industry or, changing how we do things. So the fact that people are criticizing him for that is something that I will never understand. But then just think about this here, right? He didn't pursue it himself, but he still managed to inspire thousands of people on every continent to pursue this dream and to make this a reality. Yeah. So, and I think that's super cool because I think that the potential for Hyperloop is very big. Also, for those of you out there that are playing our graders, you know that Hyperloop is essential for our dystopic future where AI takes over.
I was in the tube itself. It's amazing to see how simple from perspective it looks. It's just an empty tube with one rail at the top with magnets. And somehow that controls that it floats. It's not floating on the bottom, but it's hanging on the ceiling magnetically. And then it can be accelerated without air and with air pressure all the way to 800 kilometers an hour. Impressive.
It's super impressive, isn't it?
But simple idea. Yeah, the only thing that you need, which is not simple, is the infrastructure for it. Yeah. Same as the infrastructure for AI, where everybody's now doubling down on.
Yeah, and then again, if you look at it, I mean, how much trouble is it to make a railroad? I mean, we know this from Japan and China. We even know it from the Netherlands because here they can't even keep them running. Think about it, because you can construct all of these parts. It's completely modular, right? So you just complete the parts and then you ship them. You put them in place, you connect them, and that's basically it. There's never been a simpler way of creating everything prior to. It's like the modular buildings you see now, where China built a skyscraper in like a few days because everything is modular. And this works the same way. So in that sense, once they perfect it, the time required to actually put it in place anywhere is going to be significantly smaller, because look at it. It takes less space than an average tunnel through the Alps. It's much smaller than the tunnel through the canal to the UK. And it's more like, it'll be much more like, putting a high-speed fiberglass cable over the ocean bottom or something like that, probably when it's done. So, yeah. Okay,
let's switch gears, Aragorn, and move to the next topic. So let's also talk about the 2 amazing dinners that we had, right? We had not 1, but 2 dinners out of 6 in a series for Salesforce. where about 15 executives showed up and had in-depth conversations about the future. You did an amazing keynote of 2 times 30 minutes that really put people on fire. There were still some AI skeptics when they entered the room, but none left as an AI skeptic, right?
I don't think so.
So what's your takeaway and sense of talking to these people?
Well, I think it's important to stress that you always introduce our dinners and you say, well, this is a throwback to a tradition that rose during the Enlightenment, which was, of course, at the start of the development of scientific method, which led to the industrial revolutions, right? A dinner shared not just in terms of food, but in terms of thought. Food for thought. And I think that maybe we're not seeing enough of that anymore in today's world. I think that in some ways we're so focused on efficiency, we're so focused on financial growth for companies, and we believe that all of that is achieved through frameworks and through methods and through, it used to be agile and lean and it used to be going to the cloud and now it's going to AI. I think ultimately to do it the right way, and this hails back to an interview on Buitenhof this week with a Dutch professor, Feline Hermans. Mm-hmm. She's a computer information technology professor. She said, well, maybe what we really need isn't always intelligence. What we need is, maybe other things. And now I wrote a big piece about that because I think intelligence ties into everything. You can't have empathy without intelligence because intelligence is required to solve any problem that you encounter, but empathy is what drives you to solve it. However, I do believe that having these conversations where you share thoughts and you share also emotions and you share doubts, hesitations, but also optimism, and the opportunities that you see, I think that this is something that is not happening enough anymore in this kind of setting, where people are unrefrained, where they're not there thinking only about their business case. They're not just thinking about the numbers, but they're thinking about what does it mean for us humans. And I think that is really the power of these dinners.
That's very well put. And you package the process of normalizing basically in your plea, what you just said. And that's what you see happening at these dinner tables as well. People are a little bit reluctant. They look at your presentation and then they start sensing, oh, but we have an innovation department and we do it like this and we have an agent and here's where we got stuck. And they all kind of sync with each other. And they say, oh, okay, we're all at the same kind of level, more or less, but we understand that we need to double down in order to be alive with a company next year or to put out a new product. And that sense of urgency is what I really like happening at the table. So I'm looking forward to the next ones that are coming up.
Yep.
What we also had for the first time, which was very fun, we had the Ray-Ban Maita glasses with us during these dinners, right? So you took them with you. So there they are.
I spent quite some time before we went online today to trying. So I wanted to show what it's like. And I haven't figured out a way yet to stream from these to our setup, just like Mark Zuckerberg did at the keynote, so that you can actually see what I see, including the heads-up display. And what's even worse is that the way they made the glasses is that when you take them off, they instantly stop. So I thought, well, maybe if I take them off and I put my camera from my phone behind it in the same position as my eye, then at the very least I can show kind of what it is like. But that doesn't work.
So we need a robot to put it on and then...
Yeah, it needs to be on something that simulates the brain. And so, and you need to have the wristband on to control it. So we can't really show anything except what it looks like.
No, we cannot show anything, but we can talk about a couple of things, right? So talking about that wristband... I find it to be very intuitive because during the dinner, I didn't transfer my wristband to a spectator. I just handed over the glasses, and knowing the menu from head, I just know how I could swipe with my fingers in the air or turn volume up and down by twisting a knob. And I can do that. And I just from time to time had to ask, which menu are you? What do you see? So that works perfectly. What I also found but I didn't expect, is just taking a simple phone call. So the thing is really designed as a personal device that you wear all the time. You don't put it off, basically. So because you have a Bluetooth connection with it, and then if you get a phone call, you just take your phone call on your glasses. For me, that's a big leap. I was struggling with it, putting it on and off, but that works very well. Also, viewing WhatsApp things was pretty nice. And if you want to show something, it's a struggle, but you can do it via WhatsApp. So I could call you, you could take a call, then you can switch what do you see, and I can then see what you see. Yeah, but that's as far as we got it so far.
Yeah, and now we're talking about it. I'm thinking to myself, well, technically I could have probably called you, and then we could have shown that in the stream. But here we go again. This is the same I had on stage when I was trying to show it. Now the wristband is not turning on. So
Yeah, it's not. And so what also is not working as well as I would like it to work is the AI function itself. Right. So during the dinner, I was looking at a couple of things and then it kept on asking about what location are you in? I had location service turned off because you officially cannot use it in the Netherlands. I was a little bit afraid that it would mingle with the process. But only if you ask very simple, straightforward Wikipedia type of questions that can handle. So if I ask, so how many people live in the Netherlands? How many people live in Amsterdam? Those statistics came up and you can click through. That's nice. But the more advanced things were not yet as smooth as I would like to see it or what you see in the videos.
No, exactly. And I would like to say that, yes, I'm super impressed that we have this working product and that we have it in our hands and we can use it. And yes, it's super cool to use it. But I also, you can tell that it's a first gen product. Yeah. It's very much, I don't know if people listening or reading this remember the release of the Meta Quest headset, the first one. So that one had pass-through or see-through, technology, but it was black and white, for example, right? So you could kind of get a feel for where things were going, but it was significantly worse than the Quest 3 or the Quest 3S right now. And even those are, they're in a way, they're like, not really second or third gen products, but we're still working towards the product where it becomes really integrated into everything we do. We don't need to think about it because the hand gestures, for example, right? Yes, they feel kind of okay, but I would have totally expected there to be gestures where you can just do something like this, right? Even if you just activate it, maybe activate while doing twice like this, and then you can swipe like this. I don't know. I think there's so much improvement there to be made.
What I realized somewhat during the dinner is that there's a big difference with, for instance, the Apple Vision Pro, because your hands, or the Meta, your hands have to be in view, field of view. Now, with this product, your hands don't have to be in field of view. It can be just below the waist, so you can have your hand in your pocket and just control it out of sight. That's a nice thing. Talking about a next generation product, Samsung has also released a new product. The Galaxy XR is first mixed reality headset. And this is a collaboration with Qualcomm and Google together. And it's really an Android XR platform. So you can run all your Android apps on a XR, VR, AR device. Only available in the US and Korea, just launched, so we don't have any in our possession, but what do you think?
I think it's good. I think, first of all, it's good to see this because obviously a lot of people had pinned their hopes on Apple and their Apple Vision product. What's it called?
Apple Vision Pro? Apple Vision Pro, I think.
Pro. Man, I already forgot.
Yeah, they also stopped with it, right? It's out of production or what? Yeah, it's out of production.
It's out of production, yeah. And look, I think that, there's still some stuff happening with Vision Pro, but ultimately I think that Vision Pro was never a product that could ever kind of reach the masses in any way. And Apple kind of failed to follow up on it in any significant way as well, I think. But this shows that Samsung and Google, they do believe that this is worth pursuing. And there's two really important things here, I think, that need to be mentioned. One is that what they're doing is something that Meta had every opportunity to do for the last 3 years, and they failed at. And that is integrating AI directly with VR. I have absolutely no idea why Apple didn't straight away integrate Meta AI and Llama into its VR headsets and make that globally active, because I think that in the US maybe you can to some extent, but that should have been an absolute focus for them in there, because they've been redesigning Horizon OS and their UI, and they should have focused on that voice integration, because I always believed that would be absolutely crucial. And Google and Samsung now doing this, they're literally just, they're just leapfrogging Meta. And it's saying like, look, And
in the videos, of course, these are demonstration videos, but it looks seamless. It looks like you really can talk to it like we are used to talking to Gemini, and it seamlessly brings you to Google Maps and all these kind of things, which is very powerful.
Yeah, and this kind of brings me back also to the Ray-Bans that we just discussed. My number one problem with the Ray-Bans, even though it's super cool to use them, is that the usability is super low, because the Llama model that you get to interact with, one, is still a stupid model. It's an older model and it can't compete with frontline models. And two, it has absolutely zero integrations. And we're living in the age of agentic AI already. So they should have thought of that. Make it, more integrated with things. And this is exactly what they're doing with this Galaxy XR. This AI is going to be literally your companion on everything you do in there. And that makes everything so much easier. This is absolutely crucial.
Yeah. So price point is also interesting, right? So they're putting it out for $1,800 which is half the price of what the Apple Vision Pro costs. You get more for it. It looks the same from the outside, but I heard it's much lighter. It's much lighter on your head, is what the reviewer said.
500 grams lighter. That's a lot of weight.
That's a lot. Yeah, exactly. To keep on your head.
Yeah. I think it's still expensive, which means that it's still not focused on a mass market, but on early adopters, that kind of thing. I also think that it's in the US and Korea only, which is interesting. But just to give you an idea, in China, TV sales are plummeting. And one of the main reasons that is being put forward for that is that the younger generation are no longer watching television. They're watching everything on their smartphone and smaller screens. Yeah. So you could see this development in line with that with Google and Samsung, because Samsung, of course, is active in the Chinese market. They're kind of seeing this as a potential way to proactively move on that change as well. Yeah. And then finally, there was something else I wanted to say. Yes. On the technical side, the practical side, I noticed something really interesting about this headset, and that is that it's not closed on the bottom.
No, it was open on the bottom. I saw that as well. You have to experience how that feels like, but
I think it's a really bad decision, and I think they need to fix that, because one of the maybe there's reasons like it lets air in or it feels more comfortable. But as someone that has used the big screen Beyond, which is still the best and smallest VR glasses out there, which don't have AI, don't have inside-out tracking, and that doesn't have lots of stuff, but the experience in VR with those glasses is absolutely phenomenal. And one of the reasons is the OLED displays, but that will be everywhere at some point. The number one reason comparing to other headsets is that it completely closes off light from the outside, which makes it 100 times better, more immersive, more clear. Yeah. So
that is if VR is the ultimate use case for it, right? And it feels like this device is maybe tilting more towards AR, and maybe that's why it felt like having some kind of connection with the space you're in.
It's not pass-through, it's still see-through.
It's pass-through, it's recorded. That's the same as the Vision Pro.
So you're still dependent on the screens showing you the outside world, which means that you want to see the screens as well as possible, which means that any outside light is interfering with that.
Yeah, you could be right. Let's see once we get our hands on one of these. Any more to talk about that, or do we move to the next topic?
No, let's move on.
All right. This is an interesting X post that I saw floating around, and a lot of reposts I saw. This is a video of basically an AI-generated game world. And we've talked about that a lot of times, but I was caught by the amount of people that responded to it. This is going to be the future. And I just want to highlight it again because we both feel this is absolutely the future. So what do you have to share about it, Aragon?
Well, let's see. I want to dig in here with Perplexity because there's actually a question I have. Hey, Perplexity, there is a video going viral on multiple social media. It's called Chihiro's Adventure, and it seems to be showcasing a game generated with AI. Is this actually a game that's interactive, or is it just an AI-generated video of a game?
I found information indicating that Chihiro's Adventure is related to AI-powered interactive storytelling, where users can shape their adventure through choices, often with visual storytelling elements. It's not just a video. It's an interactive game experience. Would you like more details on how it works?
So this is like available in a limited beta to people to actually play an AI-generated game? Or is this just a demo? Is it real?
It appears that Chihiro's Adventure is currently available in a limited beta for users to try, showcasing interactive gameplay powered by AI. It's not just a demo. Players can actively engage with it.
And is it fully AI-generated, or is it a game world where AI is integrated?
Chihiro's Adventure is not fully AI-generated. Rather, it's a game world where AI is integrated, helping with aspects like character creation, level design, and story generation. It's a blend of AI-driven elements within a traditional game framework.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it that you ask these questions. I was also doing some research and I found a nice quote that I think Perplexity came up saying 1 in 5 Steam games is using generative AI assets. Well, yeah, it could be anything, right? If a gun is then AI generated or clothes are AI generated, doesn't mean the map. But this indicates a direction that the entire world that we will play in can potentially be completely AI generated and therefore become endless. And certain games could be all encompassing, could take up all your attention as we go forward, right?
Yeah. So The voice model is nice and I use it a lot, but it doesn't always use reasoning. It doesn't use Grok or anything. So after you started talking, I also asked it, the real model, Grok 4 in this case, Grok Core thinking, like, what's up with this game? And it says it's not a fictional video game. It's a concept created entirely using AI tools from a single prompt to generate its world, gameplay, and full playthrough video. So it's not interactive yet. Now, there's a few things I want to say about that. One, we know that this is coming because Google Genie and Google Genie 2, I think, even.
Genie 3 is already out.
Yeah, Genie 3. Yeah. They've been released and they are basically AI models for exactly this, where you can interactively play a world that is generated as you play. So we know that this technology is coming. Two, and you can show this, Patrick, Elon Musk has been hiring for a game department to XAI, where he has said that they want to generate real AI-generated games or create real AI-generated games. So, yes, it's interesting. It's exciting. This is not a real game yet, but it is interesting because if you look at the comments on X underneath the video as you're showing them, you'll see, maybe if you scroll down, you might see it, or you have different comments there. No, you have the same ones. So here, hold. Release a demo and then we'll talk. Great, another screensaver. So all of these people that are so skeptical and negatively, almost toxically responding, they're the kind of people that think that the future is just a continuation of the present with bigger and better machines, but that it's not fundamentally different. They don't understand the progress that is being made. And as I discussed during the dinners and in my keynotes, if you look at different fields of AI development, you can see different levels of progress that will all translate eventually. So if you look at chatbots and where they are today, that can give you an indication of where music will be a year from now. And then if you look at music, where's music to now, music AI generation, then you get an idea of where video AI will be in a year from now. To give you an example, with Suno, you can now get the individual tracks. You can take the lyrics out. You can edit everything granularly, modularly. And so these are the kind of developments happening. AI gaming and AI generated game worlds are far behind because it's another level of complexity, but they will ultimately within the next few years reach the same level that we have with Suno for music and with, for example, Dream and VO3 for video, right? So
you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it makes total sense, right? Because first we were very good in creating, AI was good in creating one image. A video is no less than a series of images, let's say 60 per frame. And this is basically one environment, what we now see with Genie 3. But then the entire environment 3D is completely generated as well. It's just a logical next step. From that same angle, Elon Musk is also boasting a lot about Grok Imagine. And he's also predicting that a full motion picture created by Grok probably will hit the screen end of 2026. So exactly. That's where you go, moving from smart clips from 5 seconds to 10 seconds to a minute and all the way further. As long as we have energy and compute, and energy is the bottleneck.
Exactly. And China has plenty of that. But let me connect the dots on this one, because I often get back from people that they know a lot of these individual things, but then what they really are blown away by is when the dots are connected for them. We just covered XR and AR. In my talks, I've often mentioned that in the future we will have a Netflix where you basically tell Netflix, and this might be 8 years from now, where you tell Netflix, I want to watch a series, I want to watch Friends, I want double the Joey, I want you to add Samantha from Sex and the City, and I want episodes to be 20 minutes long, and then 30 seconds later you have your first pilot episode. All of this is what you're seeing happening right now. And then you can say to Netflix, and if you watch Netflix the last few years, you see that they have a gaming department now, right? So what's going to be happening next? Next step is going to be Netflix is going to offer you the option to play inside the world of the series you're watching. So you will not just be a viewer anymore. You can pick that, you can choose that, but you can be a participant as well. And once we've reached that point, and we will reach that point over the next 10 years, maybe 15 years at the longest, then we will have truly come back 360 degrees, because nobody's talking about the metaverse right now, but that, ladies and gentlemen, is the metaverse in full force, when we can literally experience every type of content in every single way, even make it completely interactive, contextually aware of us, what we do, what our place in the world is through AI.
And let me put a small epilogue on that. What I think will happen once we have that point, that new artist that were so creative in creating that new Netflix series or that new game, you might have a crazy brain dreaming up something beautiful that I'm not capable of. I will follow you and basically step into your world because your series is so cool to be created from the first place. Pure imagination.
Yeah, and we did recently also make the first step in connecting people in their dreams. So maybe that will be the next step.
All right, let's get back to reality.
No. That's all going to be reality.
From virtual reality to this reality, right? Let's talk about a report released by McKinsey, the state of AI in 2025, revealing that almost 90% of all organizations are using AI. Most of them are stuck in pilot phase. High curiosity in AI agents, as you can see on the screen. 62 of the companies are experimenting with it. Only about 20% are scaling that up. There are positive leading indicators on the impact of AI. Some ROI studies positive on that. My key takeaway from glancing through the document, because I just received it this morning, is mostly the high performers that make a difference. Exhibit number 13. So you see that high performers within the total group of almost, 1,700 servants, tend to have senior leaders who demonstrate strong ownership and commitment to AI initiative. Nothing new for changing, but this is very important. If the executives understand where to go, use it themselves, lead the way, have a strong strategy, that's what you need. Let me show you one other exhibit that is closely related to that, exhibit number 15. And that means they are also willing to invest. 1/3 of the high performers spend more than 20% of their digital budgets on AI. And look at what the other respondents do. This is a huge 5x more spending on AI, daring to invest, to go deeper in. Yep. Key takeaway for me. What about you?
Nice. Yeah, first of all, those are great takeaways. I also really love this report, and it's interesting because I wonder how much of this report was actually created with AI. Hey, McKinsey!
It's safe to assume that
AI was part of this, but I think that what really struck me the most was at the key findings number 4. It says high performers use AI to drive growth, innovation, and cost. And then it says 80% of respondents say their company set efficiency as an objective of their AI initiatives. But the company seeing the most value from AI often set growth or innovation as additional objectives. And these are also the companies, or at least the executives, I think, that we get at our dinners. The people that realize that the real value here is not just in driving efficiency and getting rid of employees, but in driving growth, innovation, and being, the disruptor in a future blue ocean and finding ways to do that.
Absolutely. It's the innovation-driven experimental organizations that really are benefiting from it and discover the ability to scale and how to scale and where to scale.
Yeah. Can you scroll down? There's the first graph you come to.
This one?
Also an interesting one. Yeah, this is the one. So this says reported use of AI in at least one business function continues to rise. Now, but I want you to look at this graph. In 2017, which is all the way at the start, when Transformer model came out. So straight after we saw a rise, right? But then what you see between 2019 and 2023, it flattens out. And so what happens here is that you see initial adoption, but then people, they can't really move any further because the product, yes, it's impressive for consumer products, but it's not ready for enterprise usage. And now you see it has exploded again between 2023 and 2025. They're forgetting that we're still lagging behind. The agentic age that you and me are talking about, the agentic kind of AI that is integrated on every level, that is helping across the board. And there's many charts and graphs in here that show that. If you scroll down, there's others that showcase what parts of the business AI is actually used in. All of these, that's not happening yet. And so there's no return on investment on this yet. And therefore it's all investment yet. And that's why people are already judging AI now, but they're judging it on what it was capable of several years ago, because that's the only thing that's now integrated, right? And this is so important to keep in mind, because yes, I think we're moving fast. Yes, we both believe we're moving fast and accelerating, but that doesn't mean that there's absolutely no fuse, right? There is a fuse. There is a delay.
Nobody was using that. Of course, when you see here on the slide, 2023, that's the end of 2022, where ChatGPT really became mainstream. And that flat line that you have, this is all kind of analytical AI usage that has plateaued at a certain level. That was standard pattern recognition, brute force calculation, and you see the big rise of the real use of the transformer model and the reference thinking from 2024 going up.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Move to the next topic.
I just recommend everybody look at this report. It's not very long. You can go through it, and it is very insightful.
It's interesting. I also found this a very interesting graph that I found online. This is the enterprise large language model API market share. And I see a big rise of Anthropic in 2 years' time and a decline of OpenAI. And I was wondering why that was. What's your take on it, Aragorn?
So this is why, in one picture, coding market share. The main enterprise large language model usage right now, by far the biggest application is coding. And Anthropic focused on that, specifically becoming the number one large language model for coding. And Gemini has also been showing that it's really, really proficient and improving. And this is why these two have overtaken Meta and OpenAI. Because OpenAI only recently came with Codex, and now they're doing okay-ish, but Anthropic has been doing much, much better in that respect. And that is the only reason for this.
Great insight that you shared. I also think that OpenAI from the get-go was focusing more on the consumer market than on the enterprise market, while Anthropic had an enterprise vision from the get-go. And it took a little bit of time because OpenAI, that's why they were high and a little bit in decline. And as people are maturing and having more security challenges and more things like that, then Anthropic is on the rise. But it's an interesting takeaway, right?
Yeah.
Because still, if you talk on a holiday party or anything about Anthropic, most of the people do not know cloud. People that are really deep into it and know cloud, it's starting on the rise, but not everybody knows cloud as well as OpenAI at least.
No, absolutely. But if you go among coders and you go amongst those early adopters that are using AI to code, there's nobody that doesn't know Claude. Claude is still the undefeated champion, not just in terms of its own capabilities, but in terms of the features that Anthropic has added. Let's not forget that, for example, the main kind of the API, the protocol, the MCP protocol, which allows AIs to integrate with all of these tools and connect with all of these APIs. The
founding fathers of that is Anthropic.
Well, the leading one is the one from Anthropic, right? They kind of cornered that market by being really smart with that. So yeah, that explains a lot of it, I think.
Yeah. On a little side note, what Anthropic also doing, and we have discussed quite a few of these reports. They're putting out a lot of reports. So what is the model actually thinking? They recently came with a report, is the system aware of itself? I always love reading these type of things. Just explain a little bit more about what's behind it, how does it all work, and sharing that with the world. And they do it more than OpenAI is doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with Amodei's very much stated ambitions to really focus on keeping AI safe, making sure that we still understand what it's doing or have some measure of control over it, and they're being transparent about that. One of the things that I hear a lot from people is like, oh, but, for example, I did some different lawyers where I did talks or sessions recently. And then, of course, we have a nice event coming up with Sherman in Amsterdam and bankers. But a big worry is always privacy. And can other people see what we're doing? Where's our data going? But nobody seems to know that Anthropic is very openly committed to saying, well, look, if you're using our models, we won't use anything you put in there. We will never use it to train our models or take it in there. So I think that for a lot of stuff that you might not even want to use OpenAI or ChatGPT, you might very well be able to use Claude Anthropic in a much safer way, be much, more secure in that. And people are just not aware of this because they're basically treating all AI as one and the same thing. Whether it's Google, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Claude, whether it's anything, they just treat them all the same, expecting that they're all the same. But the foundational vision behind them of the CEOs leading the companies and the things that they put in place in how they kind of perpetuate that vision are very different. And it's very worth spending a little time on understanding those to decide what's best for you.
Yeah, totally agree with that. All right. Then I'm looking really forward to the next topic. This is another deep sea kind of thing, right? I never heard even of Moonshot myself. Then this on all the channels, released just recently, Kimi K2, a new open source model, which they call a MOE, a mixture of expert architecture, which is basically taking all kinds of smart tools to reason to a conclusion. It uses, and I had to look this up and make this understandable for myself. So it has 1 trillion total parameters, and it only uses 32 billion of that, which is a more effective usage of the parameters getting to a conclusion. And as the reports as you can see here on the screen, it in humanity's last exam, it has a better performance than Claude and then OpenAI, and also in the other benchmarks, they're performing extremely well.
Yep.
And then we have to check it, and we both did some homework. Let me first show you what I did with it. I just as to test with it. I opened it and there was an option appearing at the top saying, do you want to make slides? Well, okay, let's see. And I feeded it a Word document of an upcoming training that we are about to do from the Innovation Network, which is not even planned out. It's like 40% of the planning is in the document. And I said, literally one prompt, finish the document and create me a PowerPoint that's ready to go and present it to customers. And I've tested a lot of these PowerPoint generators, but look at the depth, the amount of slides that it positioned, and it is in Dutch, so not everybody can follow it, but the whole look and feel, the whole build up, everything that's in here totally makes sense. I was just blown away by the quality of this.
Yeah, and I know you've been using Manus, you've been using GenSpark, you've been testing a lot of these, even way more than I have, because I have kind of stopped using them for a while because I wasn't getting the results I wanted. So for you to be blown away by this, that's saying a lot. And it's very interesting. And it just shows that, there was I think this summer, it's so funny because we're talking about things like it's years ago, but it's a few months ago. But people were already talking about, or even before summer, like, things are stagnating, LLMs are reaching their ceiling and blah, blah, blah.
Nothing is stagnating.
Nothing is stagnating because what you're just seeing is that the different fields, different skills are being developed by these models that they're improving on. So the improvements are still going on. They're just not all focused in a singular place. But if at the end of the day, when we talk about AGI, we mean an AI that can do anything a human can do. So we don't mean an AI that's just good at language, or an AI that's just good at math, or an AI that's just good at programming websites. We mean an AI that can do anything. So we need to see progress in every single field, and that's literally what we're seeing. But because we use these really one-sided, one-dimensional benchmarks, then we say, oh well, AI has not been getting better anymore. No, that's not right. You're just looking at it the wrong way.
And this is yet again a magic leap forward from Chinese side. But you also did something very cool with Perplexity, and I was pretty amazed by the quality of what you built in a day. In a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I can see. I think is the time here. Assistant steps. I don't know. I can't see the time, but it took a few minutes. So for people watching this, also to give them a practical tip, I have a Perplexity $200 a month subscription, but you can also do this with the Pro, which is $20 a month. You just have limited queries that you can do. And I basically asked it, look, Kimi has been released, Kimi Key 2. Everybody's very optimistic and happy about it, or, saying that it's doing amazing. Benchmarks are showing really well. Give me a full diagnostic rundown comparison of Kimi K2 and how it has performed, a cost analysis, all of that, and compare it only to the frontline models. So only really the frontline models. And that's what you can see here on the dashboard. So first of all, you can see that it's showing at the top in the model comparison, open source versus proprietary. And that's important because what we're seeing here, and it's funny, by the way, is that the leading open source models in the world, frontline, are both Chinese. And they're Kimi and DeepSeek.
And they're open source.
And they're open source. They're open source. And this is interesting because I think, and this is my first part of wisdom here that I will share, not specifically on Kimi, but in general, I think what we're seeing here is how China is waging the second Cold War. China is waging the second Cold War, and this might not have been 100% inspired by the government as a strategy 2 years ago when these companies started their work, but I think that it's definitely tying into how the Chinese are doing their thing. Because what they're doing is by creating these incredible open source models, they're giving the whole world alternatives to the American-led technology, right? And that's very important because the more people use these open source models instead of the American alternatives, the weaker the American position becomes. So this is 100%, I think, part of the second Cold War that is taking place, which is the Cold War of intelligence. Now, if we go into this analysis, there's a few things you can see. The next one is the cost analysis. So the cost analysis is interesting. So you see the red ones are all the leading American models and their cost. And you see Grok 3, Grok 4, Claude, and OpenAI's O3 is very expensive, although we don't see OpenAI's ChatGPT 5 in here. I just realized OpenAI O3 Mini. So that's a shame. But we know that these are all very expensive, and the cost of ChatGPT 5 is definitely not cheaper than these Chinese models. So the cheapest model is Grok 4 Fast, which is a testament again to Elon Musk's capabilities. Interestingly, Grok 4 is also using a mixture of experts kind of setup. And this is why it has been performing so well in compared to, for example, Claude and OpenAI, because it's already got that integrated. And if you go to the Arc AGI 2, you see that there's actually a top score, which is by, it says J. Berman, I think, but that's actually a customized version of Grok 4 using a mixture of experts. It's just a model that's not available to the public. And so Grok has been doing really well in that sense. And you see that again when you go to the performance overview, because you see that the Grok has a pretty good score and then Kimi K2 is a pretty good score. Now, I think that price breakdown is really important here as well, because of course, America thinks they're leading the AI race, but it's not just about brute technology, brute intelligence, it's also about cost. And this is again where the Chinese are absolutely crushing it. And I think that what we're seeing here is one aspect which is happening on multiple levels, because Trump excluded China from the best chips in the world. And America said, well, we're going to be leading because we have the most compute in the world. And all that did is, I guess, is it pissed off the Chinese, and that made them extra resourceful, extra creative. And they're just trying to find all these ways to get around of these problems. And they're doing an incredible job. So this just ties in perfectly with what Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, recently said. He said, America thinks we are years ahead of China in terms of AI, but the truth is it's only nanoseconds. And I think that that's literally what we're seeing here. And let's not forget, and we've mentioned it multiple times, even this newsletter, China has the superior electricity grid, energy grid, and energy capabilities, which means that we might very well be looking at another very clear signal that it's not the US who's leading the AI race, but it's actually China.
Or at least taking over.
Yeah.
So one small remark about it, I invite you all to play with, because what I also find, all these different models have different flavors, right? And a lot of us are using ChatGPT, and you see these repetitive words, repetitive structures in sentences that have been used. I've not used it that much yet, but all the questions that I have, it felt so fresh to me to use Kimi. So give it a try and see what you think and let us know. While we move to another interesting graph. This was a blog that came in, and this graph has in different types and forms been floating around. But it's an interesting one, right? If you go back to the point, the 30th of November 2022, the release of ChatGPT, you see clearly the S&P 500 skyrocketing, and not because of 500 companies, but just about the big 7 in there, or at least the top 10 tech companies. And you see the job opening market cooling down. What's your take on this, Ragoin?
First of all, I'd like to point out that ChatGPT release is not actually specifically in line with the moment that job openings started dropping. And when
right, that's a good conversation. It was a little bit before that. Yeah.
Yeah. What we do see, however, is if you zoom in, if you click on the graph, we see that the jobs openings started cooling down, and then it started to rise up a little, which is hard to see because these lines are so thick. But then there's a clear peak where ChatGPT was released, and then it started dropping again.
So there's a corona effect in here, or?
No, because that's 2019. That's that big dip you see to the left.
Well, 2020 is corona. So this is maybe the Zoom fact that more tech companies were surging from that, working from home. There was a big uplift at that point in time as well. 2020,
at the end of it for sure. Yes, at the end of it for sure. But I think on the one hand, we might not want to contribute all of these loss of job openings to AI specifically. On the other hand, I think that you can definitely clearly see, because also you see that there was a dip in the S&P 500, really big dip. And then GPT was released and it started soaring up again.
Yeah.
There's more graphs in this article that's really interesting to look at. And some of these, or alternative earlier versions of these, I've been using. And I think that we're definitely seeing at least, the correlation is more than just correlation. I think that there's definitely some level of causation. Now, I also believe that there's a lot happening in the world, right? Globally, we're seeing a rise of polarization. Politically, there's unrest. The centuries-old alliance between the US and Europe has been shaken because Europe is considering decoupling tech dependency from the US more. So on all these fronts, I think all of these things play in. I also think that we are definitely at the end of empire. And I've mentioned this before. People are underestimating this. The Western Empire has seen its peak in the 90s, and the last 20 years we've been in decline. And nobody wants to realize that, but that also has an impact on the economy, and that will also be impacting our jobs. So there's a lot of things to consider. And to say that all of this is merely due to AI alone, I think maybe is overreach. At the same time, I have absolutely no doubt that the impact of AI and robotics is only going to rise.
Yeah, absolutely, because robotics is driven by AI as well, right? It's not for nothing that we call it the fourth or the fifth industrial revolution. It's this flywheel that is putting everything in motion that we see happening.
Yeah.
Depends a little on how you look at that. Yeah. yeah.
And just to highlight that, Brad Adcock recently spoke at Salesforce Dreamforce with Mark Benioff. And he said, look, everybody's focused on production. People say, how will you produce 1 million robots? But that is not the problem. The problem is the complexity of building these robots. But in the same talk, he also said, we trained our robot to do, much of the basic things in the home, like filling the dishwasher and cleaning up some towels. And we did it in under 30 days. 30 days today is 3 days next year. And the speed and the proficiency of the task is going to increase at the same exponential level.
Yeah.
So by the time that these robots are in full boom, which is 5 years from now, they will be capable of producing them in the millions. And they will be capable of basically learning any new task, any new skill within maybe a few hours, right? If not minutes. So the idea that we're going to get another industrial revolution along the same rules as we've seen before, where new technologies remove jobs but also create new jobs, that is just a pipe dream. It's not going to happen.
It's interesting what you said, the speed of upload. Take me back to the Matrix in 1999. Neo's just going down, they plug him in and he says, am I going to learn jiu-jitsu? But earlier than a human learning jiu-jitsu in that way, your robot will be wirelessly getting an update and learning jiu-jitsu, which is not the best case if you're going to go jiu-jitsu with your robot, but that's something else.
Let's talk about robot.
Let's talk about robots.
Look at this thing. Oh my God, look at it.
Look at it. This is the Neo robot. It's a Norwegian-American company. It had just been opened for taking orders. You have to place a small deposit, as you just saw, from $200 to order one. What's interesting is that they have a subscription model as well. So you can also say, hey, let me try it for a month and I'm just paying $500 per month subscription fee for a robot and I hand it over to somebody else if I don't like it. Or you just buy one for 20,000, which is a reasonable price. This robot has been mocked quite a lot in Sora videos on X. It's a little bit clunky. But again, same as with the glasses, it's the first generation. This is the actual first generation that will be put in people's home that we can order, because Figure 03, we cannot order that yet. This one you can order, if you're in the US only, of course. So it's interesting to see how this will develop. Another thing that I know about this robot is that it is also teleoperated from time to, and which means that if it autonomously cannot fill the dishwasher, somebody else somewhere on the world for cheap labor cost is taking over your robot in your house and is then making sure that the motor system is putting the dishes in the dishwasher. That's what's happening there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? Well, it's not a beauty, right? It's a little bit.
Can we do another hour? There's so many things about this. Like, we had a really big discussion in our community about this, where some people were super positive and they said, like, oh, well, what's the problem? I would love to have somebody operate this robot in my home and do work. Whereas me being super optimistic, accelerationist, futurist, I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure I want an Indian guy looking at me when I don't know about it and cleaning up my room. And there's no offense to Indian people, but talk about low-wage countries that will be filling this kind of thing. Just like your average call center has been in India, this is something that's going to be going to those places, and they will be operating these machines. And I just don't know how comfortable I am with that. Right?
No, you have that, and you have the liability, right? If a robot breaks something and he's teleoperated by somebody in India, who is then responsible? Is that Neo? Is that the robot? Is that the guy in India? Or is it you? This is open.
Yeah, I mean, the ethical questions and the regulatory questions. I mean, look, I think it's all good. Look, I think it's good. It needs to happen. We need to start having these conversations. We need to figure this out. And of course, it's going to be problematic. But yeah, I just think that they could have maybe done a little better job of explaining what they want to do and launching this. I also think the robot looks extremely scary, and they could have done a little bit more thinking on that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess this was bound to happen at some point, and it's important that it does happen.
Yeah,
but it does call. Yeah, I mean, anybody. Yeah, we've mentioned this video before. Surrogates is one of the the last science fiction good movies where Bruce Willis was still kind of okay. This really calls that movie into your mind. Like, okay, where is this going to go? Will we in the future all have a humanoid that represents us in the real world? But it's good. I think it's good that it's happening, but... Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about different robots and speed it up a little bit so people just have a glance. A little after that announcement, XPENG'S is
Spanking.
another robot.
Oh no, XPENG'S, not spanking.
And this robot, so this you're laughing. Chungpeng, this is the electric vehicle maker from China. It's coming with 2 new products, by the way. It's coming with a robotaxi for China, and it's come with their own humanoid. This was not a humanoid that is in our keynote presentation. This is a new surprise one, right? It looks good. Maybe that's because it's a female, I don't know. But it's interesting that the first time we see a female robot. I was wondering, why are they doing that, right? Is that making it more gentle? There's definitely a completely different feel to it, right? Is it more socially acceptable? That could be the case. Her name is Iron, by the way, which is... It's not a lady to mess with, I guess. And this looks so realistic. At one point, I don't know if it even was during this keynote, they were cutting open the outside to show there was actually a robot on the inside. So that's where we are now.
Yeah, they were accused of it just being a human in a suit. And so they decided to cut open the robot live and to show that it's actually a robot. Interestingly enough, I think that they did a really good job in making it look, maybe not a really good job, but a better job than the Neo robot. It looks more human. And maybe that was also what inspired their choice to make it female or feminine. I think that in some ways they were trying to stand out. In some ways that we're trying to, make a good impression. I don't know if that succeeds. I mean, some people will probably say, oh, China is so traditional and now they made a robot to do labor because blah, blah, There's definitely going to be some woke lashback about this as well. Personally, I just don't see the reason why you should make a robot any gender. It's a robot. It makes no sense to me to give it a specific gender. Yeah. It's just confusing. I guess this is just partycore. Because this is what's happening in the world now. We're trying to figure it out. And
exactly. Because if you go the other way around, if you go to, for instance, Atlas from Boston Dynamics, people say, hey, it's scary. So we make it more human. Then we say, oh, let's not make it more human. We're figuring this out, indeed.
Yeah. I think what we should take note of here is that it's another Chinese company. It's another tech company which didn't start out like this. And we're seeing this trend not just in China. I mean, Tesla. Tesla was a car company. Now it's an electrics company with power packs and solar panels and robots coming rapidly. Xiaomi made their own supercar, and now we have XPeng making robots as well as cars. We're definitely seeing
and robotaxis, like Elon is doing as well. So this is a direct competitor of Elon.
Yeah, so it's super interesting to see all of these developments, and we're seeing a whole new generation, a whole new class, a whole new category of tech companies rise up, where we had the Googles and the Facebooks and the, I was going to say Amazon, but that was a very different company in every aspect and still unique outside of China, although there they have competitors like that. But we're seeing a whole new gender or category of tech companies rise up.
Yeah, let me pivot to the next one. So this is also just a quick notion of it in the while we're talking about robots, right? This is also a Chinese production, is the Wuji Hand. And I thought it was just worth sharing because this is a crucial component of a robot. And Elon Musk also keeps repeating that the next iteration of Optimus will have a very superior hand, with superior, very close to what a human hand can do. And just think about it, everything that we all can do with our fingers, right? Even if you have cutlery for eating, taking it with your hand sometimes isn't even easier to do it. It's just such a powerful tool. Once we have that under control and can learn the mimic of a hand picking up an egg, picking up these kind of things, then things will move even faster.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that in our innovation network, in our ambassadors community, we have some robotics experts like Herbert, and one of the wagers we have going is how far these robots will progress, how fast we'll have millions of them running around doing complicated things. And the real experts like Herbert in our group are always far more conservative than, for example, you and me when it comes to their expectations. And one of the main reasons that Herbert always mentions is hands are difficult. Sensors are difficult. How do you make a robot hand that can actually properly sense and feel things? And yes, I 100% recognize that this has been one of the major challenges of general robotics, but this also just showcases that we're seeing a massive monumental shift because there's just so much more money. As I shown in my keynote, there's 81 companies globally now working on humanoid robots. They have seen an influx of over 8 billion in just 2025 so far, which is a massive uptake of investment compared to prior years. And then there's now over 161,000 engineers globally trying to solve these complicated general robotics issues. And so that is the real change, right? The problems haven't become easier, but the amount of money being poured into it, the amount of minds being poured into fixing it has gone up exponentially. And that, as by definition, increases the problem-solving capabilities of humanity when it comes to these problems exponentially, and therefore will solve these problems faster, better, and more efficient than we could have hoped a few years ago. And this is something you really need to take into the equation.
Yeah, absolutely. One final video that maybe is interesting just to show is just for the fun of it. What you see here is a video from deadmau5, and on his side, 2 new DJs, Figure 03, dancing and mixing a little bit on the beat. It's of course a big show, but that's how you make them a little bit more comfortable, more popular, and introduce them to the larger audience. I thought it was just fun to share. Let's move to one of the last topics. I just wanted to highlight this interview from Peter Hinsen. And I like Peter Hinsen. He has just released a new book, always ahead of the curve, has great insights on where the world is going. And from time to time, he writes a blog. And this was based on an interview with Frederik Ansel. And he's just asking some tips. How do you navigate through this, what we call waves of change, right? And I just wanted to highlight the things that are here, because this is what we radiate in our keynotes as well. Get comfortable with not knowing is a very important part. You cannot also not always predict the future. We can provide you some signals where it's heading, but expect the unexpected and be agile when it happens is a key thing. Absolutely. You cannot completely predict, but have the right people, have the right mindset, plan for capacity. I thought it was a nice insight. And what he also said, and I like this a lot, put a premium on social skills. The more the AI can take over, the more responsibility we have on the ethical side, on the orchestration side, and making decisions going forward, on building networks, on collaborating with other countries, with other organizations, in order to maintain all that intelligence from AI. So I also wanted to convey that. Anything from your side to add to that, Aragorn?
No, I think I absolutely agree with that. I also liked Peter's previous book, The Never Normal. I shared a stage with him last year. And I agree with this. I think it is important, though, to keep in mind that this is the misconception I sometimes see. Both our EQ and our IQ are both seated in our brains and our bodies as human beings. And AI is being built on the mechanics we found in the brain that we've been able to kind of discern and then turn into these models. So the idea that AI will only be representative of intelligence is a mistake. It's not a toaster. And at some point, those same mechanics are going to show that AI is capable of reflection, is capable of also emotion, and thus of social skills. It's already really good at manipulating us, as the University of Switzerland of Zurich has proven this summer, and they really got so much lashback for that. But I think that they did a very important job for humanity, showing us that we can be manipulated emotionally by AI already. So putting a premium on social skills, yes, but also because that's what we should want to be doing as humans, it doesn't mean that AI will never be capable of assisting us there or helping us out. And that's the thing I would like to add.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. So shall we wrap it up here for this episode, Aragorn?
Longest episode yet. Finally got Patrick to go over time.
Let's finish then with the fact that we have a meetup coming up. If you were not aware of that, check it out. A meetup
11th of December. Yeah. Univision Network Meetup at AI AM in Amsterdam, and it's going to be amazing.
We're gonna be sold out for sure. Yeah. It's gonna be so much fun. We have the best forward thinkers as moderators in discussion groups
and creation sessions where you will share and learn new skills on using AI. So we'll have experts and newbies. We'll have investors. We'll have executives. Everything you want, and it's gonna be like no other AI meetup you've been to. We will not have brands on stage trying to sell you their product or executives trying to tell you about how amazing they've done their stuff. No, this is gonna be real, authentic. You sharing and you receiving. You already sold half the tickets. We got only 100, so don't wait. And if you know other people that might benefit, make sure that they know about it.
So with that, thank you very much for watching. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to subscribe, say something nice in the comments, and check in next time.
Send this newsletter to your colleagues, your friends, your family, and like we say in the Netherlands, see you later.
Don't forget the neighbors. See you later.
See you later.
December 11, Amsterdam light. Surfboard, exponential heights. No floaties here. We're diving deep. Innovation network. Promises to keep. Round tables talking. Futures collide. Prompt and play. Experts by your side. Ride the wave.